Hi, I'm Jen.
And I'm Sophia.
And this is Every Rom Com, the podcast that has fun taking romantic comedies seriously. On today's episode, we'll talk about writer-director Alice Wu.
And discuss life and love in a small town.
And we'll get to the bottom of the philosophical question, what is love? Posed in the 2020 film, The Half of It. Hey, Sophia.
Hi, Jen. That was awesome. Jamming over here.
Yeah, that's your first time hearing our new intro music that I got from the copyright-free web.
Very excellent. Exciting. Yes, very good.
So though the people listening to this will be receiving it sometime in January, we are recording this just after the holidays, just before the new year. How were your holidays?
Good. Not the same. We didn't see any family in person. It was the three of us. But that was nice.
Yeah.
And I really went out and spoiled our daughter this year and all of the presents that were under the tree for her. And when she went down to see it, I heard her from the kitchen go, "Wow."
That's awesome.
Oh, it was great. It was great. How about you? What did you guys do?
Honestly, it's pretty normal for my husband and I to spend our holidays either on our own or maybe not with a ton of people. We lived abroad for so many years, so holidays were always different when we lived abroad. I spent one Christmas Eve abroad, in Japan on a visa run to get my visa changed. And I was at this mall where they had a crazy Christmas show with fake snow and they goes flying from the sky. And then people dressed as fairies lip syncing and dancing to Christmas carols. So there's
awesome.
In my past, I've had some fairly abnormal Christmases, and this one was pretty standard, hang with Lee, watch our Muppets Christmas Carol and hang out with our cat. So yeah, we had a good time. Yeah.
Good.
So we're going to be talking about today, The Half of It from 2020, and it is a modernization of a classic literature tale, Cyrano de Bergerac. And in the coming weeks, we're going to be doing a series of these modernizations of classic literature. So you can expect from us Clueless, 10 Things I Hate About You, Bride and Prejudice, and She's the Man coming up in the coming weeks. We haven't done one of these previews yet, so I wanted to just let you guys know some of the things that will be on the way. And this is being, recorded out of sync, so we may not be able to get to comments and questions right away. We'll have to figure that out. But if you want to email us with feedback, you can email us at feedback@everyromcom.com. And you can find the podcast at everyromcom.com, as well as where you get your podcasts. And we're our first episode on Moonstruck. We were not so good about separating spoilers from a spoiler-free zone, but for the last couple episodes, we've been making an effort to have a spoiler-free section, and then we'll announce when we're going to start talking about spoilers. So just for the convenience of people who may not have seen the film. All right, now let's get into The Half of It.
I'm 17. I live in Squahamish with my dad. I run a business, writing essays for people. I guess I just never thought I'd need anyone else.
Hey, hold up.
$10 for 3 pages.
No, I'm not trying to cheat.
What's this?
A letter. Maybe you can make me sound smart.
Dear Aster Flores, I'm in love with you.
Whoa. These hallways were murder.
I'm a lead you.
Yeah, I know.
You want a letter about love? I'll write you a letter about love.
Yeah, that's our trailer. And Sophia, you're the one who found this film. How did you happen to run into it?
Yeah, it came up on Netflix. It was new on Netflix. And I'm like, oh, okay. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
That Cyrano-y kind of take where the guy asks the girl to write, love letters to the girl that he likes, but she falls in love with the girl, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that's cool,
Of course, this was a crazy year, and originally it was going to be released on the festival circuit, apparently, but instead it went to Netflix in May of this year, and Sophia found it, and here we are. And it has a writer-director, Alice Wu.
Mm-hmm.
We both like a writer-director.
Yep. A female writer-director, to be honest.
Yeah, which is also awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I like any writer director because for me, like I feel like you feel like you're going to get a complete vision that way.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always work out that way. Like sometimes a director will like do great things to a script and like see it in a new way. But a lot of times, like when you get a writer director, you just get that full vision.
Yep. And I really think you do. Like with this film, just watching and reading interviews with Alice Wu, her vision is there 100%, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. And the stars of this, we have Leah Lewis, who is playing Ellie Chu, the main character, Daniel Deemer, who is playing Paul Munsky, who asks Ellie to write the letters, and Alexis, I don't actually know how to pronounce her last name, Lemire? Perhaps? She plays Aster, who is the object of both of their affections. So I think like this is the least rom-com-y movie we have done so far because right like near the beginning of the movie, Ellie's narration says, "In case you haven't guessed, this is not a love story or not one where anyone gets what they want." Yeah, but like Cyrano de Bergerac is in a way a tragedy. Like
right.
Like there's like, and this is not that either. This is still a comedy. Funny things happen, and there's still love, and there's hope. We got to tell the people a little bit about the plot here really quick.
Sure.
So
I do want to say
premise.
real quick, if I can, about this truly, yes, not being your typical rom-com, but in my opinion, better that way. There were parts where I truly laughed out loud, or I just kind of did that cackle thing where my family was like, what's wrong? What is that? I'm like, that was great. Where you're classic, I don't know, typical mainstream rom-com, there's so much things that happen that are supposed to be funny. They're like over the top and a little bit that make them like completely unbelievable and cheesy, and there I feel in lies like the problem of a rom-com, the calm part of the anyway. That's my thought on that. Okay. I did laugh out loud.
That is good. Like I think I did a little bit too. Yeah, and we'll get into that more when we talk mostly about Paul.
Yeah.
So in the movie, we've got Ellie Chu, and she's the protagonist. She's very intelligent. She's a Chinese American immigrant, and she lives with her father, who is a widower, in a small town in Washington. And she's running basically an essay mill for all the students at her school. Like they pay her to write their essays, and she kind of needs the money because sometimes they're a little behind. And a boy who's doesn't really have a knack for words, he's a football player named Paul Munsky, hires her to write a love letter to Aster Flores. And that's a girl that he's really into. And I feel like the movie insinuates that she has also admired her even before this offer was made.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, yeah.
So, and then in the process of writing the letters to Aster and the text to Aster, though, Ellie sort of her attraction to Aster deepens. So, and therein lies the complication. So, Sophia, what is your general opinion of the film? I think I already have a sense, but
yeah, I thought it was really beautiful. It was just, I think you said these words, hopeful and just, oh man, I watched the whole thing going, oh, like that, just to myself, and because there were so many sweet, tender, like so much heart.
Yeah.
These characters, I think they're easily loved, and and you root for them,
I definitely agree with you on that front. I feel like the characters are just really well developed in this film, and that's often a sign of a writer-director, and somebody who just values characterization a lot. Like, not that things don't also happen. There's also a good plot, but like, yeah, I really cared about the people in the movie for sure.
Yeah. It was beautiful and beautifully filmed. I looked up the cinematographer. I'm like, this is so beautiful. And
go ahead, give her a shout out. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, Greta Zuzula. Zuzula, I think it is.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, Zazula. In my opinion, up and coming. Like, I
Yeah.
hope we see more of her work because it's beautiful.
It seems like this film was pretty well received by audiences and critics, so I bet we will. Yeah.
Good.
So let's talk a little bit about writer and director Alice Wu. So I looked up a little background on her, and she was always a pretty serious, like, student, worker, child of immigrants. She went to MIT at 16. She transferred to Stanford after that, and she got a master's degree in computer science. She became a software engineer for Microsoft. And at a certain point, she realized she wanted to write, took a class, and ended up going to New York to pursue filmmaking to try to make her first film, which is Saving Face. And Saving Face came out in 2004. It is currently available on Prime. I think probably at some point we'll end up covering that too. I saw it.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah, like, it's definitely a very different film than this one. Like, the half of it is like the teenage Netflix, rom com kind of thing. And Saving Face is definitely more a film for grown-ups. Like, I think it probably has an R rating. Not because of anything too intense, but just because Americans are like that. And Saving Face is like a much more of a dual story about a mother and a daughter who, like, the daughter is a lesbian who hasn't really come out, and the mother has a mysterious pregnancy. Like, nobody knows. Yeah, so it's interesting.
Okay.
You've got kind of a dual mother and daughter both coming to grips with being different than their community. So yeah, and a culture clash and all kinds of cool things going on. So yeah, I would recommend watching that one as well. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Anything else you wanted to add about Alice Wu at all?
Just that I thought she was really cool in the interviews that I read and watched. And hope she makes more. Like, I like her style. I like her voice.
Yeah, I guess, like, I've just remembered, like, one thing that explains the big gap between her films, like Saving Face in 2004 and then this one in 2020, is that she actually did go and take care of her mother's health for a period of time. So she wasn't focusing on hustling and filmmaking
Sure.
life. She was taking care of her mother. So she really values family, according to interviews I've read with her. And you see it in the films.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
What?
Like, that's what I mean. Like, all of it's like all the love. There, it's adorable how it's like, oh, this isn't a love story. It's such a love story, and it's not just love. Like, it's
Not just romantic, but
right,
familial, platonic.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. So for our cast, we've got Leah Lewis. It looks like she was in Nancy Drew, the TV version, which I have not seen yet, and some kind of movie called How to Deter a Robber. She seemed like she was one of the main actors in that. What looks interesting, though, from my perspective, is it looks like she's going to be voice acting in something called The Tiger's Apprentice, which had, like, a really good cast. So
Okay.
I think probably she's an up-and-comer as well.
For sure.
Then we've got Daniel Deemer, who plays Paul Munksky. I did not check if he was Canadian. He totally sounds Canadian to me.
Yeah. I'm like, what are we doing here?
He hasn't done anything, like, really that I'd heard of, just some TV and shorts and indie features. And he is 6'3", which sometimes causes actors problems. So yeah, no, really, because, like,
It's true. Yeah.
short actors don't want to act with tall actors sometimes, and, like, yeah,
Someone's got to stand on a box or be dug in a ditch or something like that to get shots.
So, but I hope he does well. And then Alexis, who we forgot to look up how to pronounce her last name, Lemire, possibly, plays Aster. And again, she's been in things that I hadn't heard of yet. And then I was interested in the man who played Ellie Chu's dad, Edwin Chu, is played by someone, Colin, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name exactly, Chou. He actually started out as a stuntman and a martial artist, and he has done a lot of movies, Taiwanese and Chinese films in the past. So it looks like actually there wasn't a lot of just dramatic work. So this is pretty cool. Like, you're seeing somebody who's sort of transitioning into a quieter type of acting. And he was great. And then let's see, the other people, those are really the main characters. Like, those are the big four.
And then the woman who plays the teacher,
Yes, which
Um,
we will talk about
we
later.
will talk about. She's been in stuff. She's got a long career, and that's pretty
But
great.
Becky Ann Baker, I mostly think of her as the mom in Girls. Like she's Hannah's mom in Girls. So like
There you
I,
go.
I honestly like I've put her in that role in my mind. So when she showed up, I'm like, oh, Hannah's mom. Like this is what she's up to these days.
That's awesome.
I know it's weird. Some actors like that happens though. Like Mark Harmon, for example, is always Ted Bundy to me because he was in that freaky Ted Bundy miniseries when I was a kid. So
Oh, for sure.
maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm the only one who gets
No,
stuck.
I do that with Peter Sarsgaard. Is that how you say it?
Skarsgård.
Um, yep.
Or
Boys
maybe
Don't
it is
Cry.
Skarsgård. Boys Don't Cry, really? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he plays that bad guy. And
Oh,
every other role he's in, I'm like, you played that really bad guy. I even saw him in real life. Like in Brooklyn, in our we were in the same neighborhood, and I'm like, there you are, playing that bad guy. And I just poor guy.
okay. So we've gone over like kind of the basic things about the movie. Like one really unique thing about the movie, which you can actually see more in depth. So Netflix has this like film club on YouTube that you can look at, and they'll have little features about their films, which I think is kind of neat, and I didn't really know about before. There's one on the opening credits sequence, and I watched that. I think you watched it too.
Yeah, because it was beautiful. It's stop motion, which I admire. I've never tried it. People who do it, I'm like, you're amazing. And it was just, I don't think I've ever seen credits like that. It was beautiful. And something about stop motion, like the emotional quality to me always has this, it has a feeling of longing.
Mhm.
Because it is a start and stop, this like stuttering of like trying to reach, and it gets there, but it's a little, there's a gap, and I just think it's beautiful. And Leah Lewis's voice over it, her
Yeah,
beautiful voice over that.
she's narrating basically this theory of love from Plato's Symposium, where we all start as these like four-armed, four-legged people who are then separated because
Yeah.
I think what the gods are jealous or something. I can't remember the exact reasoning for why we were
Yeah.
separated,
Like the
but
gods are jealous, and they feel like if they have each other, there's going to be no need for them. So
and
they
so we're
separate.
talking about searching for our other half that has been split apart from us, which is only one, I think, of the possible interpretations of this title, the half of it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 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 For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a cool sequence. Like narration is very controversial in movies. Some people really hate it. So, do you think it worked in this film?
Absolutely. I do. I thought
And
it
is
was
it down
lovely.
to Leah Lewis's voice, or do you just like the words?
I like the words. I thought it was fine. I did not, because I hear you on that, and sometimes it is. I'm like, oh yeah, you cheated. Or when I'm watching films like that, I'm like, but I was not taken out of the moment.
Yeah,
It put me in the moment.
yeah.
So
It definitely involved you right away in the film. Yeah.
yeah, big time. I would also put that to the score as well, which was also beautiful.
So the film is kind of only loosely based on Cyrano de Bergerac. I've never seen the film that's actually probably the most based on it, the Steve Martin Roxanne. I've heard it's very close, but I've seen
Yeah.
the a faithful version of the movie from 1990 with Gerard Depardieu, which was directed by Jean-Paul Rappeneau. I've seen that one so many times, and
Yeah.
I've read the play. I've not yet read it in French, but I intend to at some point. So I love Cyrano, but it's only
Yeah.
really loosely based on Cyrano. So like there's a fair amount of differences. So where there's the most similarity, I think, is in the main characters. So Ellie and Cyrano, it wouldn't seem that way, but I think they're very similar. Like they're both these really intelligent people who feel kind of alienated from their environments. Like
Hmm.
obviously their reasons for being alienated are different. Like Cyrano, he's basically just got this very big nose. People have made fun of it. Like
Right.
the only reason he's not kind of ostracized more is he's a really great warrior. I can't remember what rank he has, but he's in the military and he has a pretty high rank and he's known for his bravery.
Hmm.
But Ellie, she's dealing with not only being an immigrant and possibly one of the only immigrants in her town, but she's also a lesbian and she hasn't come out, but she's afraid of being found out for that. And being intelligent in a small town can also be difficult, but that she has in common with Cyrano. Um,
Yeah. Mhm.
and another thing I think they have in common is I think they both underestimate themselves in the story. And we'll talk about that more as we talk about the plot. But like one of the things that Cyrano is trying to tell you, I think the actual original story is that like try, be bold, don't underestimate yourself. So I think saw that play out thematically in this film. Okay, then you've got their love interests, which in the case of this movie is Astor, and in the case of Cyrano de Bergerac is Roxanne. Roxanne is Cyrano's cousin in the original, and they're quite close. They have quite a good relationship, but she just doesn't know he's in love with her. Astor is kind of not very, just an acquaintance of Ellie at the beginning of the movie. So there's a big difference there. And another big difference, I think, is Roxanne's a little more obviously, intelligent and discerning. Like Roxanne doesn't have some stupid boyfriend, for example. Astor is saddled with a kind of lame boyfriend named Trig. Yeah, that makes a big difference, I think, in how the story goes. And then you've got Paul and Christian. Christian is in Cyrano, the young man who actually his cousin Roxanne comes to Cyrano and tells him, I really like this guy, Christian. And so that's why in the original, Cyrano kind of adopts Christian, takes him under his wing, and like tries to help him woo Roxanne. In this case, it's the opposite. Like Paul's coming to Ellie. And yeah, I think they're both very similar characters in that they're both like really well-meaning people and pretty good at what they do. Like, well, I don't actually. Christian's probably better at what he does than Paul is what he does. Their football team's really bad in the movie, which is hilarious.
So he's bad at football, but he makes the sausage. That's like his dream.
That's
and he's
true.
Like,
he makes good sausage. You're right. Paul,
and he's got like plans for the family biz, and he wants to branch out.
Yeah, well, that's important to remember about Paul. Yeah. That's right. Thank you for defending him.
My pleasure. Sweet Paul.
Anyway, they both have their skills, but their skills are not intellectual or being skilled with words. So like that's a fairly similar dynamic. So yeah, that's the sort of the ostensible basis for the film. And I think it makes a really good, like solid trope to base the film around. Like you can put a lot of different kinds of characters into that trope, but you don't have to follow it to the letter at all.
Yeah. That's nice.
So as to cultural references in the film, though, beyond Cyrano, there are like about 1 billion of them.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah?
I did. And I was like, ooh. Oh, it felt a tiny bit. And I didn't think about that till later, like Gilmore Girlies, where they're always,
I've never watched Gilmore Girls, to be honest, so you'll have to elaborate on it.
Oh, that's about it. Like they're constantly quoting stuff, pop culture, literature, and all that. And it's great. You're like, ooh, I mean, you feel smart. You're like, oh, I know that too. Ooh, cool. But
so what were the references? What were the references to things that you cared about or liked?
Jen? Oh, I noticed like Philadelphia Story. I noticed Friday, Casablanca, a lot of the old stuff.
All those, it should be noted, like Mr. Chu, Ellie's dad, is kind of watching, and she kind of watches things with him. It seems like one of the things they do together is watch these movies.
Eat dinner in front of the TV together and not talk much.
I mean, they're watching a movie.
Yeah.
So what do you think those were adding thematically? Do you have any ideas about those? Like, because I haven't seen Philadelphia Story or His Girl Friday.
Oh, they're good. They're kind of classic. They're love stories, which I love that, like, you're watching a story about love while they watch stories about love and relationships. And so I'm like, yeah, that's right. I love that.
Casablanca, I did notice that they use I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And I thought that might be significant. Like,
for like Paul and Ellie.
Yeah. And they also watch Wings of Desire, which I did watch at some point a while ago, but I don't remember it. And Wings of Desire, Ellie ends up cribbing a quote from it in the first letter that they write to Astor. So, yeah. And then Astor notices the quote. So it's like, ooh, she's smart.
Right.
Too. She's also watched obscure films.
Well, right. Don't you feel smart? You're like, ooh, okay.
I kind of wonder, like, it makes me wonder, like, to me, like, it's very natural to have other teens watching obscure movies because we grew up in the era of, like, the video store, and you could go to the video store and you could just comb for, like, movies. But these days, like, there are a lot of streaming platforms that just don't have stuff like that. So I'm wondering if it is as common these days for teenagers to be watching, like, kind of obscure foreign films, or if it's just more, Alice Wu is more of our generation, and so she probably grew up with the same kind of cultural, opportunities. What do you think?
That's a very fair point. For instance, my brother, whom you know,
Yeah.
and grew up with too, he still gets Netflix via DVD
Oh, no way. I
because
didn't even know you could still do that.
I didn't know you could still do that either. But the reason he does it is so that he can get all those old films that are not streamable via Netflix, but you can get on DVD. I
Yeah.
dropped that service a while ago.
It's just harder to run into like media by accident, I think, because they're algorithms. And if you look at my Netflix versus my
Right.
husband's, totally different content. You have to like
Right.
be kind of searching things out. But a video store, you might just happen to run into something and be like, oh, that looks, or the video store personal to be like, hey, Martin at Goldmine Video.
Martin at
Like,
Goldmine Video.
great. Shout out to Martin at Goldmine Video.
Yes.
Those were good times.
Those were such great times.
Anyway, we won't go too far off like into the woods on this one, but like, but yeah, like there's a lot of cultural references. It felt very Gen X to me on that level, just because like the kids are just watching such cool stuff. And then Remains of the Day, I love Remains of the Day. So by Kazuo Ishiguro, and he's written a lot of other stuff like Never Let Me Go, but that Remains of the Day remains my favorite book of it's like one of the only books that has ever made me cry. Like I actually cried reading the book.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing book. And then Emma Thompson and Anthony Hopkins, of course, are in the adaptation. I have no idea why the Ellie's character says that the movie could have had more Nazis. I'm not really sure why that is, why the character thinks this, but whatever. So there's all these references in here to these different, and we should put in Remains of the Day has a lot of longing. And the first time Ellie and Aster encounter each other is the classic drop the books in the school hallway. And one of the books Ellie's drops is Remains of the Day. And Aster said, I love that book, all that repressed longing. And that's kind of the moment where you're like, oh, Ellie's really going to be into this girl. Like, yeah, they made a connection over literature. So one final reference, which I have not seen, is Sartre's No Exit. Have you read that?
If I have, I don't remember at all.
It's for some reason it's being taught in the school, and the quote is "Hell is other people." I really call BS on that being taught in school. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems too advanced for high schoolers, in my opinion. What do you think? Like, I mean,
don't know. Is it a play or?
Yeah, it's a play.
I know why I know it, because when I worked at the drama bookshop, I shelved it all the time, but I never read it.
Yeah. Should we talk about Ellie and her father next?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So one of the main relationships in the movie is between Ellie and her father, and her mother had died. I can't remember, maybe when she was 13. Yeah, that's when she said her father had died. And I watched one of the interviews with Alice Wu, and it kind of says you're supposed to kind of get the feeling her dad has given up. And you definitely, like, he's watching TV. Sometimes he cooks. He does his job, kind of, and like that's about it.
Yeah. I don't think he even does his job. Ellie does it for him, which is like...
Yeah, which let's tell about what his job is.
So he works at the train station in town, and it looks like his job is to like do the switches, like those lights.
Or the signals. Is it the switch,
signals?
Signal, both of them? I don't know. Train stuff.
Train stuff.
Important train stuff, though.
Yes, important train stuff.
But yeah, Ellie's in the little engineer's booth doing the job sometimes.
And that's sweet and sad. And he even says it like, where he says, my wife died. And then, the next day I saw Ellie, 13, doing the lights for the train and, already grown up at 13. And he just kind of, left it and let it be. And
Ellie clearly loves her dad, and she's also clearly taken on a very like mature like role in her family unit. And she's had to be mature because of her mom's death, but also because she's growing up as an immigrant, and she's growing up with like, a fair amount of microaggressions. People keep calling her the Chinese girl throughout the film, for example.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Even though it's clear some of them know her name. Yeah. And we've got like her relationship with her dad, which is really sweet. And they watch the movies together and they talk about things. And then, although not about her being a lesbian, they don't talk about relationships. But then you've got Aster's relationship with her dad. And Aster is the daughter of the local preacher. What's the correct term? Preacher, pastor? I don't know.
Pastor.
Pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like a pretty conservative denomination as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it doesn't say like what denomination they are, but it's pretty like where I think there's roles that are expected of you. And I think
It,
she's
yeah.
got to be like the good girl. She's the pastor's daughter, the pastor's kid. I'm not a pastor kid, but I've known plenty of them. And it's a dicey space to be in. I like to think that our current pastor, my past two pastors, have done really well, like, raising their kids, both of which have daughters, and without that, like, setting that expectation of the congregation having expectations of their children, so
Mhm.
some people are doing it well, some have
Yeah.
not in the
So
past.
you're noticing that Aster probably doesn't only have to deal with the expectations of her parents, but the whole community because of this role. Then
I would, yeah. I mean, I think she kind of feels that, right?
I
Don't
don't know. I didn't grow up religious, so it was hard for me
Well,
to
I'm just talking
understand
like in terms of like with her friendships at school, and like you see that, and Alice Wu talks about that, like she um has the other, Aster's friends, they're all wearing the same colored scarf and they want Aster to wear it too, like right now, so they're all wearing this, kind of brightly colored scarf. And she talks about how she heightened those characters a little bit, and she did it very well, where I feel oftentimes these teenager movies with like the popular girls are
that.
so over the top, and
Yeah.
it makes me want to barf. And my 7-year-old daughter's watching them and I'm like, these are not real teenagers. I'm like, no, teenagers are smart and wise
Oh
and
man.
poised.
Oh man. I did not have that experience, but
I know.
but they weren't the plastics either. So yeah.
Right. But that's all I feel like how teenagers are, those girls,
Yeah.
those kids are represented in these
So it was
teenage.
it was a pretty nuanced approach to all the characters in the movie. I felt, yeah,
So it doesn't feel like, I feel like while Ellie isn't telling her dad she's gay, they have a loving relationship. He cares about his daughter. He
yeah.
talks about it later, where I think he cares about like seeing her, where it doesn't seem that Aster's dad.
Cares about really seeing who she is. Yeah.
Exactly, especially, later on when we get into some spoiler scenes.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about also Squahamish, which is the setting for this movie. So I was totally fooled and thought it was from Washington State because I lived in Washington State for a while. I lived in both Seattle and Bellingham, and there are very similar named places in Washington State. There's Snohomish and Squamish and Sammamish, and like it's just like, yeah, that sounds right. And they talk about Lake Wenatchee in the movie, and like I had friends from Wenatchee, so I'm like, yeah, this must be a real place. I want to go there. It's so pretty. And then
Right.
Sophia found out that it was in upstate New York.
Well, I looked it up too. I'm like, where is this place? And it's like, it's not a real town. It was filmed in upstate New York, and but they talk about real places. So I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, where is it in relation to, and
Well,
but yes,
it totally seemed like your prototypical Washington State small town, like it was another version of Forks, like from Twilight or something. Like that whole like kind of
yeah,
moist and many trees around and like not too many different people, etc. And
yeah,
but I found it interesting the train station where Ellie and her dad live near and work at is part of the Adirondack Scenic Railroad. And I really want to go to the Adirondack Scenic Railroad now. I think that would be
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, totally.
So I do want to talk about small town life because Sophia and I are both from the same small town, which is, can we say where our small town is? Do you care if people know?
I guess not. No, go ahead.
We're both from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which is very different than this town because Lake Geneva in the summers is very populous. There are a lot of people around, so you have a few more amenities than you'll get in a place like Squahamish.
Right.
But yeah, like we did go to school with roughly the same, several hundred people for our school lives.
Yeah, that's true.
So you get like kind of some of the same things going on. Like I really related to her being called Chugga Chugga Choo Choo. So she's biking to school every morning, and like these guys go by in the truck and like every single day they're like chugga chugga choo choo. And of course, like there's the added thing of like they're making fun of her name for being foreign, for being different. So I didn't experience that. But I swear to God, my entire school life, people would be like, Howell, my last name is Howell. And I'd be like, Jennifer Howell or Howley Owl or all these like weird names. And like, I was not popular. Like in the 6th grade, my mom told me I came home crying every single day from school. Every single day. She was very worried about me. And I definitely had a hard time. It took me a long time to recover from being kind of bullied or, being called names. And yeah, I think Ellie's experience has the potential to be much worse because, not only she's different because she's smart, she's different because she's an immigrant, she's different because she has this secret about being a lesbian. So I'm not going to say my experience had the same weight, but I totally related to it. I thought it was really well done. There have been some of the Netflix movies like Tall Girl, which I thought was really stupid. Sorry, Tall Girl. Because I'm a tall girl and it was not like my experience at all. But this really, like the universal experience of feeling kind of alienated from your community, I felt it.
Yeah. I was picked on a little bit earlier. I was, called chubby. I'll just say it a nice way. But then later on, I don't think I was popular. I don't think I was unpopular. I was just kind of, there.
One of the middle kids.
One of the middle kids.
So do you think the film captured small town life well from your perspective?
I mean, that small town. I think ours was, like I said, a little more populous. It was beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful. It still is.
I thought Squahamish was beautiful too, though, to be honest.
I thought so too, but like those kids didn't seem like they had anything to do.
Well, I mean, come on. In Lake Geneva, there were people hanging out in the Walmart parking lot when they could have been at the lake. So we can't necessarily blame the town for this. Like that was like the hot hangout when I was like a senior, was people would go to the Walmart parking lot and I'm like, really?
I wasn't there. See, if that was the hot hangout, I had no clue. I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Anyway, so I mean, they go to the beautiful hot spring that's like right outside of town and they show the downtown near the end of the film. And I'm like, that's a cute downtown.
It is. I know, right? I'm like, oh, sweet, cute town.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think it did a good job capturing it. But like you say, every small town is different. Okay, one little quibble too. Like, so in this movie, there's a teacher character, which we'll go into her for. Well, she's our next topic. Okay, can we talk about her? Can we move on from small towns?
Sure, go for it.
So there's a teacher in this movie who is supposed to be, I guess, an inspirational figure for Ellie. So the teacher knows that Ellie's writing these essays for like all the students in the class and getting paid for it. And the teacher is okay with this. She says, or Ellie's like, why don't you turn me in? And she's like, and have to read the actual essays they'd write. And as soon as that teacher said that, I hated this character. I hated her because I've been a teacher. So I worked as an ESL teacher, or EFL technically, in Korea for like 7 years. I actually made an entire syllabus and textbook with like a ton of information about teaching kids how to paraphrase rather than plagiarize, like step by step going through how do you take notes, how do you do your research, how do you make sure that you're paraphrasing things, etc. How do you cite things? And this teacher is just like throwing that all away and saying it's good if you write essays for other kids. Like, I'm not going to blame Ellie. She has her reasons for doing this. She needs to make some money and maybe there's not a lot of opportunities in that town, but the teacher should not be okay with this. And so I really didn't like the teacher. At one point, she actually grabs Ellie when she finds a love letter she's written for Paul. And she says, so this is why half of my class is failing their essays. And I'm like, no, that's because you're not teaching them well.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, because you can't blame teachers entirely when students fail, but this teacher, like the way her teaching style is showed, it's just like she's writing quotes from Sartre on the board and then just staring at the students like they're supposed to do the work. And I hate the teaching is portrayed like this in movies so much, where it's like, it's really easy to be a teacher. All you have to do is go up front into the classroom and bullshit about something for a few minutes, write a quote on the board. That's teaching. To be fair, it'd be hard to portray teaching accurately, but it's a real pet peeve of mine. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, yes. At first, when she was when she first came on, I kind of appreciated she sees Ellie as, super intelligent, far more, interested in learning than the rest of the class. But again, right, it also upset me where I'm like, oh, maybe you could work a little harder at engaging your students and inspire, but there is a degree of like there are kids who just don't care.
Sure.
That's got to be so hard on a teacher who, well, I think
But I've taught
so.
kids like that too. I've
Yeah.
taught kids who are completely opposed to even learning English, and I've found a way to interest them in it. So it really
Yes.
bothers me because I think it degrades the expectations of the teaching profession when you see these kinds of scenes in
Yeah.
movies or attitudes. Anyway,
Sure, they show teachers who are like burned out and don't care anymore, and they shows kids like completely like dumb and like
yeah,
also don't care. And
yeah,
that's annoying. And that's something else my daughter sees. And I'm like, I'm telling you, people like to learn and like keep.
yeah.
And so that's really, really frustrating on both
Oh,
ends.
and this brings us around to small towns again because the teacher keeps trying to convince Ellie to go to Grinnell for college. Like, I don't know why she's obsessed. Oh, because she went to Grinnell. Because this teacher who's so happy with her life went to Grinnell, so she should go there too. And it's like, I actually had a college visit to Grinnell. And if you're living in a small town, like you do not want to go to Grinnell. You want to go like anywhere else. Like my mom and I went there and like my mom called it Grin in Hell. Like that because it was such a small town, so small. Like there was like one movie theater with one screen and it was playing the movie Milk Money, which is like where like Melanie, where like somebody pays Melanie Griffith to like sleep with their dad or something. And I'm like, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
I cannot go to a school where the only movie playing at the local theater is Milk Money.
Wow.
Maybe a weird criteria, but I'm glad I didn't make that choice.
That is serious.
I don't know. I don't know why Alice Wu is like trying to get people to go to Grinnell in her script, but hey.
Gosh, if that maybe that's just to say like this is how small her small town is. If this other place is like big or getting out or something.
Maybe it's known for English lit. I don't know. Like that's the only thing I can think of because maybe that's why I went to visit there too. I'm not sure anymore, but yeah, kids don't go there unless you can handle a really small town. Just don't. Or if like you really want to like participate in the Iowa caucuses or something. I don't know. Okay.
Goals.
All right. So,
but the long and short of it is don't plagiarize. I was a bad student. I did some copying.
Did you really?
Are you kidding me? Yes. I fudged so many things. And in college there, I'm confessing. Because every once in a while it creeps up on me. I'm like, my God, how the heck did I do that? I could have gotten in trouble. I didn't even think of those consequences.
Well, I will say that one thing about this that I did in my, this is a little bit off topic, but one thing I did about this when I taught students abroad is that instead of making like a really moralistic thing, I kind of like just help them to understand like what are the like reasons that it's beneficial to me not to plagiarize. What are the reasons it's going to help me learn English? It's going to help me learn this material. Like, and also you have to teach kids how to not plagiarize. You have to teach them how to write, how to take notes.
Thank you. I didn't feel like I got that teaching. They're like, here you go, kids, write stuff. And I'm like, it's already written in a book.
Oh yeah.
She had really smart.
She had the stupidest essay assignment too. This teacher had 500 words on Sartre's use of thwarted desire. Seriously? That's your essay assignment in high school? Sorry.
I don't remember any of that. Yeah.
Essay mills are really common these days. You can buy papers online. So that's like kind of where I think Ellie Chu's business comes from. It's like not a unique thing. It's a thing that goes on quite a bit. And yeah. Oh, and let's also make a link here to like the plagiarizing in academia and then Paul asking Ellie to write these love letters, plagiarizing in love.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. Do we want to get into spoiler alert?
No. Let's start getting into spoilers.
Spoilers.
We're going to talk about how the movie goes on. So, like Ellie and Paul, during the course of writing to Aster, both written letters and texts, they begin to kind of develop a friendship, like spying on Aster, seeing what kinds of things she likes, just talking to each other. Ellie's kind of educating him a bit. So they're becoming friends. And then Paul and Aster start to have a few dates, which
were funny.
What do you think of their dates?
Oh, painful. So painful.
Yeah. Unlike in Cyrano, where Cyrano kind of stands below the balcony and feeds Christian words to say to Roxanne so that he can say them in real time, like Ellie takes over for Paul and is just like texting Aster during their date, which is so weird. But people do that these days. People will just like
Right.
text in the same room. So it's very modern.
Yes. Yes, my husband and I have done that. I'm surprised Aster went out with him again. Way to go, girl.
I mean, the letters are so good though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could buy somebody being that shy. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Let's see. There's a school recital first. There's a school recital where Ellie has to play the piano for some reason. Somebody sabotages the piano, lame. And Paul encourages Ellie to play a guitar instead. She plays a little song she wrote. Then all of a sudden, everyone wants to hang out with her. She goes to a party. She gets a little bit tipsy, and Paul takes her back to his place where she sleeps in his bed. Not with him, I don't think, though. And then the
No, I
next
don't think so.
morning, Aster shows up after her trip to see Paul and finds Ellie there, and they go out and have a good time together after Ellie assures Aster that Paul's all about her. And then let's see, Paul gets a crush on Ellie then because Ellie goes to his football game and he realizes, I think you're supposed to see him realizing that he's more excited about Ellie being there than Aster. And honestly, okay, one quibble really quickly in the middle of this plot summary. How would Paul and Aster even manage to have a relationship with each other in a town that small while Aster's still dating Trig? Like, how would that even be possible in a town that small?
I know.
Like, she's waving at Paul at his game. Like, how's nobody noticing that and gossiping about it and telling Trig?
Right.
That's one quibble I have with the movie's plot.
Just that one?
I mean, there's another one or two, but like that's the main one.
Yeah.
So then after the game where Paul manages to score apparently the only touchdown in like 15 years for their team.
See what I mean? It's hilarious. I laughed.
That was hilarious. And then the cheerleaders start screaming, "We're on the board! We're on the board!"
That's fantastic.
Anyway,
Brilliant.
after that, Paul's really excited and he sees Ellie and he kisses her. And just as he's kissing her, of course, Aster walks in. And because Ellie is so defensive about it to Aster and seems very worried about what Aster thinks, Paul finally figures out that Ellie's in love with Aster and that she's a lesbian. And he's like, it's a sin. Like,
Yeah.
he's so sad.
Yeah. But then later on, it gets okay.
Yeah. Like we said, we're going to do spoilers here.
Yep. Wait,
Yeah?
there's something else. Oh, I was confused by that. I kind of thought he already knew early on. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you catch it earlier? And
there's that moment where Ellie thinks he's caught it, but he totally hasn't. Like when Ellie's describing like all the good things about Aster, like Ellie is so afraid that he's figured out that she's a lesbian, that she loves her. But like really he's just like, oh, I'm so stupid. Like that's how you should talk about someone you love.
Yeah.
He's so obsessed with, he's so worried about himself that he's not even seeing this thing that Ellie's inadvertently revealed to him, which I think is very true about a lot of humans. Like people are so wrapped up in themselves. Sometimes they don't see things that are obvious about other people. So Ellie and Paul and Aster, like after this kiss scene, they're all kind of isolated from each other for a while. Then there's the church scene, which I don't know if we want to do our clips now or later. What's your
feeling? Later.
Okay, we'll do them later. So they're at church. For some reason, everybody is at this church. Ellie's reason for being there, she plays the piano for the congregation, even though she doesn't believe in God, but she plays the piano well. Aster's there because her dad's, the pastor, and Trig's there because, he's the same denomination, I guess. And then Paul apparently is too. Maybe there's only one church. The weird English teacher is there.
It's the town church.
Yeah. I mean, most towns have a couple churches, right?
It's true. They do, right? They would have like at least two.
But coincidentally, everybody's at this one. So,
yep.
So at the church, Trig asks Aster to marry him. She nods yes. She doesn't exactly say yes. She nods. And then Paul and Ellie both kind of stand up to object.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that scene a little more later. Paul and Ellie become friends again because Paul basically says at the church that he's okay with her being a lesbian. He's okay with it. Like he understands now. Ellie runs into Aster, and right at the end of their scene where they talk to each other, Ellie runs up and kisses Aster. And that is my second quibble.
Okay.
Because I don't think it was earned. Like I didn't feel like it was very clear what Aster actually felt, what her actual even sexual orientation was. I didn't think it was clear that Aster was saying she had any feelings for Ellie in that way. And she didn't give her like a look. Like they talk, Ellie and Paul talk at one point about how do you know when to kiss someone, and Paul's like, they
Yeah.
give you a look, and I'm like, yes, they do usually give you a look. There was no look as far as I could tell. I went back and watched again, like I don't see a look here.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I understand why you want that scene there to like be kind of affirming to people who are coming out and to like have a gay lesbian love story with a happy ending, etc. Like I feel that I see the value in that, but I feel like I don't think it would go well in real life to do that, especially in the middle of a downtown that's conservative.
Uh-huh.
Like like I just feel like it would be an awkward situation potentially. So I don't know. Thoughts?
Um so I think I said between our back and forth, I'm like, okay, I love these kids, but they are far more emotionally mature than I was at 17. Like, no, that none of that would have gone over with me at 17. I would have like run away and never talked to anybody ever again.
So wait, who in what situation?
Like, oh, like if my friend Paul kissed me,
Mm,
if my gay friend came out to me and kissed me, I would have been like, "Wah!" And just because it would have been different, and
yeah,
again, my own insecurity, um,
yeah.
like wouldn't have been able to handle any of that. So, way to go, these kids. 17-year-old Soph would have
Well,
hit him on the head
I don't know. I
away.
was pretty like bold, and I was pretty like you know
Yes,
mature, but like
you were.
but part of that maturity is like I probably wouldn't have kissed somebody, taken that on upon myself to do that unless I felt a pretty strong signal, or I would have asked. Like these days, enthusiastic consent, like asking permission is pretty de rigueur. Like I don't know if we need to always go that far. Like in my personal philosophy, like the look to me, like there is a look, although you
Mhm.
can misread it because Paul thinks Ellie's giving him the look, and you can clearly misread that. But like I would want some indication, and I just didn't feel like that was there in this scene. So I wish maybe it had been done just like slightly different. Like Aster could have hinted a little more strongly that she was interested. I don't know, something. But
I kind of missed it. She does say something. She says she kind of knew, like deep down, she knew it was
that it
like
was Ellie,
not
right?
Paul. It was, but did she know it was Ellie?
I think you're supposed to think that, but at the
Okay.
same time, I don't know if that's like the same as saying like, like let's hook up. I don't know.
Oh, right, for sure. Because she just says maybe in a couple years or something like that.
But she says maybe in a couple of years she'll know, but like know
Oh,
what?
she'll know.
Like know what? Like
Oh,
who she is,
oh,
if she's interested in girls, like what is she gonna know? I don't know.
right, right.
So yeah, I mean
Yes, it is vague.
yeah,
And
it's
and
sweet.
so was it earned? I mean, I thought it was a great kiss. I was like, now that's a good kiss.
Yeah.
And like for I'm glad that like I wanted that to happen. I'm glad it happened, but was it earned? Was it would it have really happened? I don't know, probably not.
So things that are earned, let's talk about those. So there's a scene early in the movie where like Paul and Ellie are watching a movie together, and it's one of those scenes. I can't remember what the movie was called. I looked at you can find out online, but there's a scene where a lady's in a train, like it's driving away, and then a guy's running after the train. That kind of classic romantic scene. And
Oh
Paul's
yeah.
like, "This is really romantic," and Ellie's like, "Oh my god, it's so trite. He's such a moron. He's never going to catch the train."
Ah,
And so Paul goes to see Ellie off at the train station because she's taking the train from her podunk town to another podunk town to go to Grinnell. People who go to Grinnell are going to hate me. Like, oh well. Anyway, but Paul, of course, like it's almost inevitable. Like this is when something's earned, when it feels like, of course, this happens. Like Paul
mhm.
runs after the train, and Ellie is like, you don't see her expression at first, but she's looking back at him, and then when she turns around, she's like laughing and crying, and she's like, more.
Yeah.
But like, but you just feel that these two characters have grown to be such good friends over the course of the movie, like maybe lifetime friends. And I,
Yeah. Yes. And it is earned also because he's running after her all over the place to the point
yeah,
like it makes him a better football player.
yeah,
Right? That he's able to score that 10 because he's running after her when she's biking up the hill. He's chugging after. And then he keeps going, "Hey, hey." Like I grew to really love the way he says, "Hey." And Yes.
Oh, and it should also be mentioned they each have a nice little character arc. So Paul's like struggle through the whole movie has been standing up to his family to develop different sausage recipes, creative sausage recipes for his family's sausage business. And he has this taco sausage he's really into. And so he's
Mhm.
finally making progress on that. And Aster, instead of marrying Trigg, is applying to art schools. And Ellie is off to Grinnell. Hopefully
Yeah.
she will transfer.
And let's give her dad a little arc
Oh,
there
yeah, yeah, yeah.
too, because he knows she needs to go, and at the end he's in his engineer suit, and he's ready to have some life again too, and that's
Yeah,
really precious and beautiful.
it is.
And
It is.
he makes all the like, what is it he make? He's making like dumplings, the sausage
Yeah,
dumplings for her
yeah,
to take with her.
yeah. It's very sweet.
Beautiful. See, makes me just weep. No words, but the
Because it's not like
action.
Ellie isn't going to go to college, but her original plan is to go to college at UW, University of Washington, and then still live at home, which implies that this place is somehow close to Seattle. I don't know. I guess it could be a different UW, but everyone calls the one in Seattle UW. So, well, anyway, but like originally she was going to still live with her dad, and they've moved on and realized they each need to have their own journey. So that's good.
Mhm. Mhm. We have in our notes here about like what's this, the symbolism of the train station.
Mm,
Right? Like it's the symbol of a journey.
yeah,
And here she was stuck, sending all the people off on their own merry way, and
yeah.
now she's on
Yeah.
the
Oh, it's so cool that
train.
she's on the train at the end. Yeah, it's so cool. I love that. I love the whole last segment.
Yep, again, beautiful.
So let's talk about like some of these relationships in the film, like saving Ellie and Paul for last, because I think there's the most to say about those two. They share the most screen time for one thing.
Yeah.
Um, first, Ellie and Aster. So Ellie is our main character and her love interest. What do you think about their relationship?
It's a little heartbreaking because it's like, oh, these are kindred spirits, in this small town, and they could be, you know, talking about all these films and books and ideas and art and together, like face to face,
Yeah,
instead of like via text and like kind of
impersonating someone
secretly
else.
and
Yeah,
thinking you're somebody else.
yeah.
Um, so that's a real drag. And it's not gonna, they're not gonna be together in the end. And so that's also like really
Yeah, you
heartbreaking.
know this from the beginning because she basically says
She
so in
she
the
says
narration.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think the ending gives you a little bit of an opening to think, well, maybe they'll get together. I
Maybe.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? Yeah. Like for me, like I didn't really feel that relationship as much, but it's more because of the kind of character Aster is. Like there's a lot of times in rom-coms there's kind of this idealized girl, that
Mhm.
the characters are interested in. And I feel like Aster falls pretty in line with that. Like she's very beautiful, she's popular,
Mhm.
she's smart, and like they try to show that more, but like she's so not smart in the way she's living her own life, like agreeing to marry this Trig guy, even staying with him. Like she's obviously bored of him in every scene she's with him. I don't even get a sense of like why she's with him. Like I don't.
Right.
Are you more forgiving of this?
I am, because I feel like that is I feel like that's very real. Well, okay, speaking from my own self, like going along with what's expected because you want to, not everybody's brave enough to go out on their own and stand up for themselves. Like you want to be a part of the group and you
Mhm.
want people to like you and you're a people pleaser and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So finding your own voice and like living in that takes time for a lot
Okay.
of people.
So
Raising
yeah.
hand right here. So I can definitely see that because I've done it for sure. Like
Okay.
having my own thoughts and being like, well, but the group I'm with says this one thing and I'm not so sure, but I'll just, you know, keep it status quo. I won't speak up.
Yeah.
So a lot of my life has been that way. So
Yeah. I don't know if I
still
would.
still finding my voice, you know?
I was never popular enough ever, like, and I was very unpopular to the point where it never made sense to please anyone at school. So I think I do have those tendencies to want to be liked for sure, but like I never felt like as much pressure probably to like fit in at school because like from the get go I was like the tall, skinny, nerdy one, and it's kind of like, well, there you go. It does give you a certain freedom, I guess, which is something Ellie mentions in the story, even that when you don't fit in, you can kind of be who you want to be. Yeah.
And I think if was like I was that medium person,
Yeah.
where it wasn't overly liked, wasn't disliked, wasn't shunned in any way, but not like, hey man, you just said that the hangout was at the Walmart parking lot. I didn't know that. So like all these
So I don't know if that was the popular. That's what I always heard about though. People like hanging out at the Walmart parking lot. I'm like, are you serious? Like, I don't
there
know.
was definitely a popular circle that
Anyway,
partied and did whatever that I never hung out with. I mean, I feel like I had a couple circles, and that was not one that I was like there for.
so let's talk
So
about Paul and Aster then. So Paul, I don't get the impression he's the most popular. I think he's probably a middle person because I don't think football is like a big deal at the school comparatively since they suck. Like their team is not
right,
good. But
a middle person. I
Paul
like
is
these middle
probably a
people.
middle person, yeah. And so what about Paul and Aster? Like, is there anything there at all?
No, I think she probably comes to see like he's a nice person.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there's like a deep bond. I think they could like an event in maybe like 5-10 years, these three are gonna hang out and they're gonna be friends and have really good relationships, I think. Amongst each other. But like I don't think like Paul and Aster are gonna get together or anything like that.
Yeah, like I think an interesting thing they show in the film is Paul's attraction and Ellie's attraction to Aster are very different. Like Paul, like he sees the value in Aster, but he can't quite articulate it, and I don't think he like understands it in a very specific sense. But Ellie's
Mhm.
appreciation of Aster is very discerning. Like she sees the little details. Like they show this painting that Aster does at one point of a flower, and Ellie notices the actual strokes, like that made the painting, like the little details, whereas Paul's just like, it's pretty. And like,
Right.
it's really sweet that, to be told something's pretty and to have it appreciated, but to have it appreciated in that discerning way is very
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one of our favorite relationships, I think I can speak for both of us, is Paul and Mr. Chu, Ellie's dad.
So great. Yep. Yep.
So
They bond over meat.
they have a sausage fest.
They have a sausage fest. Terrible. Oh man. Which is really sweet. You know, they
Yeah.
don't say much, and which is great because Paul's not a guy of many words, right? And Mr. Chu,
Maybe he's
doesn't.
self-conscious maybe about his speaking. I don't
I
know.
think so. I feel like that's how it is because when he also talks to Paul about his wife and Ellie having to take over, he does it
He's in Mandarin, like
in
in Chinese.
Mandarin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting choice
Yeah, because
because the
obviously
audience
Paul's not
knows.
gonna understand at all, but
Yeah.
he listens, and I
Yeah.
think that that's what's so lovely about Paul, the
Yeah.
scene okay, maybe for another favorite scene we can talk about later, but I have another favorite scene
Okay.
when we
Yeah.
get to that part.
I love how
Um,
when Paul is with Ellie at the train station, he says he's gonna, take care. Like, he doesn't say I'm gonna take care of your dad, but he says I'm gonna keep him busy trying new ketchups. And like that's kind
yeah,
of a version of I'm gonna take care of your dad. Like I'm gonna make sure somebody's visiting your dad.
yes. Oh god, I love him so much. See, that's so beautiful. Crying, tears of sweetness.
So are we ready? Can we talk about Paul and Ellie's relationship?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're before the show, we're talking amongst ourselves, and I was telling Sophia here that I ship Paul and Ellie as friends. So shipping is a term that's derived from the word relationship. If you're not familiar with this, shipping is when you really root for a couple to get together, or just like to be together. Maybe you write fan fiction or read fan fiction about them, or make little fan videos about them. I have seen that there are fan videos about Paul and Ellie's friendship. I think just as a friend. I don't think anyone's trying to like shoehorn them together against their sexual orientation. But yeah, but I ship them as friends. I think it's such a beautiful. It is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Like so,
Yeah.
that's what shipping means. I've shipped so many ships in my life, most of them romantic, and most of my ships fail, unfortunately. So I love their friendship in this movie. I think they both give each other like so much. Like I'm gonna go into this prototypical quote from them. So Ellie's trying to educate Paul about culture, like high culture, so he can talk to Aster more effectively. And she's telling him the plot of No Exit. She's like, 3 people are trapped in hell. The door's open. Nobody leaves. And Paul's just like flabbergasted by this. He's like, my nana hated Minnesota. She left. And Ellie's like, your Nana wasn't one of the great thinkers of the 20th century. And Paul says, my Nana's not trapped in hell either. I love that quote because I think it just like epitomizes their friendship. Like Ellie's very intellectual, she's very like discerning and smart and interesting, but she can also be a bit cynical, a bit detached from practical matters. Whereas Paul is just like he just goes in there and he goes after what he wants, and he's very in the physical world. He's very like he's looking at things like whether somebody wants to be kissed, looking at their eyes. His head is not in books. His head is in reality, making things, making his sausage. And I think it's just a good combination, those two.
Well, and what he does for her, like, this is kind of, I think, her turning point in like giving him a chance as far as like, fine, I'll talk to you. I'll teach you how to talk. I'll teach you how to do whatever. When she's biking to school and he's chugging up after her, and those boys in the truck drive by and they go, Ellie, choo choo. And he runs after them. He's like, shut up, I think for her to have that once in her life, to have somebody tell those people to shut up,
Yeah.
like, my gosh, like that is, right. He's a man of few words, a kid of few words. But what he does give to her is so huge.
Yeah.
When they're at the Goodwill and she's trying to find clothes for that recital thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, you look awful. He's like, I'll bring you some clothes, go to the dressing room and I'll bring you things. And
he encourages her
like,
to look like herself. I think that's really important.
He
And you don't have
totally
to dress in this fake way. Just dress in something
be yourself. And how sweet is that's beautiful. That's the friend that she absolutely needed in her life.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think like she's doing that behind the scenes thing for him where you find out that she's been writing to these local papers to tell them about his new sausage recipe.
Yes.
Which he finds out by accident. And I think that's very meaningful to him.
Yeah.
Like they're both supporting each other's endeavors. It's very wholesome. It's very good.
Mm-hmm. I love as you can see, that's like my favorite. That's my favorite love.
We still haven't talked about one of the main themes of this movie, which is really like I've never, I don't think, seen a movie which so sort of explicitly brings up various theories about what is love. Like people wondering out loud about it. There is a theory of love, a philosophical theory in the credit sequence from Plato's Symposium about the other half theory. And there's the quote, the opening quote that you see is, love is simply the name for the desire and pursuit of the whole. But yeah, like, so this is Ellie's kind of opening philosophy of love. She's buying it. You will feel an unspoken understanding and unity. Or at least she's putting that in the essay she's writing for another student. But I think she feels that you will have another half. Do you agree, disagree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe, yes.
It's a pretty idealized theory in a way. Like I won't say that I don't believe in obviously Plato's exact rendering of this where we had 4 arms and 4 legs. I don't think Plato did either. Socrates did either, but like whatever.
Right.
But I do believe that you can meet like soulmates or whatever. And then
yeah.
And then
soulmates. Interesting though. You say plural.
Yeah, I believe that. Some people think there's only one. I think it's preposterous to think that in a world of like so many people that there's one. Like, and the other thing is plenty of people are married more than once and happily married more than once. And the other thing is I think you can have friend soulmates and family soulmates.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying yes to all of that too. So there you go.
But then we get some competing theories of love. So Paul and Ellie are talking about Aster. And she's like, how do you know? Ellie's like, how do you know you love her? Have you talked to her? Which is a pretty reasonable thing to ask.
Yeah.
And he's like, not really. And he's like, but I think about her. And then he's like, love makes you screwy. So that's not as much of a theory of love, but
well,
is it all that different from this idea about like the love is simply the name for the desire and pursuit of the whole? Are those two things that different? I don't know.
Love makes you screwy. Like, I think
is the felt experience that different between those two things? We're getting into deep end.
Let's see. Love is simply the name for the desire and pursuit of the whole, and love makes you screwy.
I mean, desire, pursuit, those are both like names for things where you're kind of screwy. You're acting kind of.
Yeah, they are the same thing. I'm going to say they're the same thing. And then
Oh, go ahead.
Well, just to say what another theory of Paul's is like, isn't that what love is? How much effort you put into loving someone?
Yeah. And when he says that in the movie, which is interesting, Ellie looks speechless for the first time around Paul. She looks like,
Mm,
oh, this guy said something that might be true. That's the look on her face. She's kind of taken aback. She's like, oh, this guy thinks
mm,
things.
mm,
And I think it's actually like, I don't know if it's something I realized about love, which makes me seem really immature, to be honest. But until I was much older, I don't think I really thought about love as an action. Love is effort.
mm,
But Paul
mm.
is here thinking about that, and as a teenager. I mean, you can do a bad version of that, like a dark version of that, where somebody puts an effort and thinks they deserve to get something in return.
Sure.
I don't think that's at all what Paul's character is doing.
No. No. Oh, sweet Paul.
He's very sweet. He's not like he's not being the good guy stereotype where like he's with the fedora. He's just really honestly very sweet and works hard to try to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we have another one of our like this little what do they call it, title cards or something, where they put up the quotes on the screen.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
works for me. Yeah. I know
And
what you're
there's
talking
an Oscar Wilde quote: "In love, one always starts by deceiving oneself and ends by deceiving others. That is what the world calls a romance."
about.
None of the characters say this one, and nobody even talks about Oscar Wilde. But yeah, it's put kind of in the middle of the movie a little bit.
Well, isn't that what they're doing? They're kind of there's this whole little level of deceit, making Astor think this is really Paul sending all these texts and,
What
you
to what extent
know.
are they deceiving themselves though? Because it says it starts by deceiving oneself. So do you feel like they're deceiving themselves?
Hmm.
I mean, I think there's a certain amount of projecting onto Astor. As
For
much as
sure.
they agree about
Yeah.
literature and film and everything, like I think it's hard to know somebody very deeply, even if when that's all you know about them, maybe.
Yes. I think so. I mean, well, my own example is like, back when I was younger, I'm like, oh, we're gonna like the same music. We're gonna like all these things, these criteria of what would make a good partner. I think my husband and I like we can agree on 3 bands. That's it. Like, and even then I'm like, all right, I got to turn that off. Can we please turn that off? Like, we don't like the same music, really.
Yeah,
There's a lot of those kind of things that, you can be like, oh wow, we've got so much in common.
yeah.
Um,
Some people swear by the pop culture thing, but I don't think it's all that important either. Like, I mean, my husband and I do have a lot of that stuff in common, but it's not like why we're together by any means.
right. Right. I'm
Okay.
with you on that.
So then we've got, let's see. Yeah, so Astor and Ellie are together and they're talking about Paul, she thinks. Astor's really talking about Ellie's letters, basically. And she says when she reads them, I've never felt so understood. So I thought this was an intriguing version of love. Is love being understood?
To a degree, I think. I think in terms of like when you're ready to be like completely vulnerable and like air out all your laundry and still that person's gonna be like, I'm still gonna stay with you. There's a level of understanding there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Versus like, oh, I don't want to handle that garbage.
But is it the kind of understood where like somebody looks at your painting and they see the strokes that you put in? Like I think for me that would be very meaningful. Like so I see, or like understanding not just this book but why I like the book, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
that level is like it's very
Yeah.
interesting to me. I don't know if that's the whole of love, but that's something I notice.
That's a nice part. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, that's a nice feature.
We're
It's
just
true.
getting around pieces. I think like the point I think what we're getting to is that like these are all pieces maybe, or most of these are pieces of love. There's not one. There's not one way or one philosophy. Maybe would that?
Yes. Yes, I would agree with that.
Although I don't think this next one describes love necessarily at all. So Astor then is talking about Trig and how he wants to marry her, and she says he's just so sure, and maybe that's love. And I'm like, is it though? Like, because I don't feel like
Oh,
Trig, my boyfriend, loves her at all. Like, I don't think he knows her, sees her. Like, I think she's just he calls her a little lady when he proposes to her in church.
and he goes to Ellie and is like, wait, what does he say to her? He's like, oh, I can tell you're into me.
Oh yeah, Trig
But
thinks that Ellie's into her. Yeah,
but he's the one that's like, when did she get so hot? It's like, hey, You're such an
Oh,
idiot.
that's right. He comments on her. Yeah, I mean, but you can say someone's hot if you have a girlfriend still. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
still do that.
true. But like, I don't know.
But like you're
He's
doubting whether he's even sure. But yeah.
I think he's definitely playing into that role of like, this is how I'm supposed to be,
Yeah.
and really believing it. I mean, they're what, 17, 18, and he's proposing to her.
I mean, that happens in small towns still.
Totally happens in small towns.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially if you've been with someone for a long time, which I think it's implied that maybe they have been.
Golly. And like I wanted that when I was that age. I stood up in a couple weddings when I was that age for people my age. Looking back, I'm like, golly,
Yeah.
you're just a kid. Just a little baby.
So then Trig has another thing, but I don't think it's his theory. So in the church scene, which we'll
Oh
talk
yeah.
about a little more in depth, Trig reads the standard kind of reading. What is this? Do you know what this reading is from? Like what?
1 Corinthians,
Okay.
chapter 13, 1 through
Oh.
whatever.
So he does the love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. So, like, I don't have a problem with that theory of love. I think it's a beautiful expression, but Trig's saying it. And Trig boasts all
Ah,
the time.
I
He's,
wanted to barf. I'm like, barf. You don't even know what you're talking about.
I
He
mean,
doesn't even know what he's
he's
talking
doing it by
about.
rote, just like you
Right.
said. He's just doing what he thinks he's supposed to do. That's the thing that people say at like half of the weddings you go to. It's
Yep.
like unique. It's not, saying something from his soul necessarily. But I mean, as
Right.
a theory of love, I think it's not bad. Like love is patient, love is kind.
Okay. Right.
I don't. I think in its purest form, it probably doesn't envy and doesn't boast, and it's not proud. I mean, I would sign off on most of that.
Mm-hmm.
Bible holding up for you?
Yes, indeed it is. And not just because, my husband's a ordained minister. So I was grooving on that before we got together. So
Yeah. I guess it is a funny way of putting it. I don't know. So, like, I think like the next quotes we're going to do are actually from that church scene. So, do you want to just like segue into talking about the church scene? Actually,
sure. I suppose I identify with it because my like God, church, Christian journey started in high school.
okay.
Like, and my young church days were very much in, I just don't want to be mean and cruel and like point fingers at certain denominations, but I don't think they do things well in terms of a lot of social justice, a lot of freedom to ask questions and kind of come at life and faith through a lens of fear
Hmm.
and non-acceptance and stuff like that. So you can glean whatever you want from that as far as like which groups of Christians do that. So what am I trying to say? So in this scene, when like, sure, of course, that 18-year-old kid is going to quote from, 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient, love is kind, because that's
And
what's expected of him.
that's
And
preceding proposal. Yeah,
what was that?
just to give context to the scene. That's when Trig proposes to
That's
Aster.
when Trick proposes. And I feel like, there's definitely, this is what's expected of you. And if you veer off in any way or question in any way, well, you're being led astray. And so if you mean it or not, but if this is your community and this is what's expected of you, you just do it. Right. So when this big reveal happens in the church,
Mhm.
where Trig proposes to Aster and she doesn't even say yes, very clearly looks distressed, and like that her father is all like, yay, this is a great idea. It's so upsetting to me and so hurts my heart
Yeah.
because I saw so much of that as a young person, and in the young people that I hung out with in church and in youth group
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And just a lot of lives hurt by a lot of that. Um,
So it felt familiar to you, this scene.
yes, it yeah.
Yeah.
um, So, but then, Ellie jumping up and like saying her piece, and
First she just shouts no.
she shouts no.
And then
Yeah.
I think Paul actually says his piece first. Like,
Yeah, he
should we play the
does.
clip? Should we play
Yes,
the little
play the clip.
So Ellie has shouted no, and she's been kind of shouted back down by the pastor. And then Paul speaks up because he's going to make sure things get done. So let's listen to Paul.
Love isn't pretending.
I know, because I've been pretending. Only for a few months, but it sucks. And I've been thinking about how much it would suck to have to pretend to be not you your whole life. I always thought that there was one way to love. One right way. But there are more. So many more than I knew.
Okay, it got cut off there a little bit. I'm sorry.
It got cut off, but he says something like, I never want to be the guy that
Stops loving someone for loving the way they want to love, I think is how that finishes.
That's it. I never want to be the guy that stops loving someone for the way that they want to love.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And it's important to note he's not outing Ellie here either directly. Like, I don't think anyone in the church has the slightest idea what's going on except for Ellie and Aster.
Right. But like, to me, what he does right there, to me, that's what the church is supposed to be. And I love that his speech happens in a church. I think maybe Paul the bravest person in this story.
I mean, he's pretty brave. Yeah. Yeah. Although he's not brave enough to try to woo Aster without somebody to help him write letters. So also,
this was a learning lesson. I don't think he's going to do that again, like with the next girl that he likes.
Then we have, after Paul said his piece, Ellie is empowered to say her piece. So let's play her clip. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
Love isn't patient and kind and humble. Love is messy and horrible and selfish and cold. It's not finding your perfect half. It's the trying and reaching and failing. Love is being willing to ruin your good painting for the chance at a great one. Is this really the boldest stroke you can make?
I love that. I love that quote. And that's the moment when she says, is this really the boldest stroke you can make? She has definitively outed herself as the person who wrote the letters to Aster. And that's when Aster gets it. Like, oh, this is who wrote the letters. So everything's going down. Everything's being put on the card. All the cards are being put on the table, except no one else in the church would have any idea what's happening.
I know. Oh, that's fine. That's okay. It's a big spectacle, and that's okay. But Aster leaves, and she doesn't marry Trig. She goes to art school.
Yeah, but she doesn't leave before she slaps Paul.
Slaps Paul, but is looking at Ellie while she does it. And in fact, I think I saw that in one of the articles about the film, and Alice Wu is like her slapping Paul, but looking directly at Ellie is like, I can't slap you, but
yeah,
I'm slapping you through Paul.
Yeah, I see that. So like Ellie's little speech here, like she's saying like love isn't kind and it's selfish and horrible. I think she might be taking it too far for me. When you're young and you're feeling love, what you think is love, I think a lot of times it does feel selfish and you will feel horrible because you've put expectations on someone else to love you back. And messy, I think, is okay. I agree with messy. But I think there's a difference between like when you found like love that is healthy and when you think you're in love, but things aren't working out. What do you think?
Yeah, unrequited love is probably what that is.
I have a lot of experience with that. But even requited love can be selfish and horrible. Like there are people who get married and they're jealous of each other all the time or fighting each other all the time or like,
But
you know what I
is
mean?
that love though? I don't think it.
No, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be unrequited and you could have unrequited love where it's not selfish and horrible, where you really want the best for someone else and you just can't be with them, but you still feel something for them. I mean, yeah, I just want to like stand up for my fellow victims of multiple unrequited loves out there.
Yes, high five. I raised my hand to that one for sure.
Because that is like all I had for a long time in my life. So I relate to that. But
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But bold, she also says, like a word that I'm not sure you could actually hear well in the quote. She says it's messy and selfish and horrible and bold.
Bold.
Like,
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if love has to be bold, but I think like a lot of times you have to be bold to get love.
Well, it's part of the risk, you know? You're like, hi, I love you.
Yeah.
Do you love me too?
Yeah.
I sure hope so.
And then there's the other piece of that even if you get together with someone, like love is still risk because when you love someone, something's going to happen to one of you eventually. Like you're not probably going to die like that old couple in the Titanic that just are holding hands. One of you is probably going to go first. Like
Yeah.
you're putting your heart out there. It's bold. So I sign off on that.
Yeah.
What have we learned? What have we learned about love from this movie, Sophia?
I think what the love that stuck out to me the most is the platonic loves between Paul and Ellie, Ellie and her dad,
Paul and Ellie's dad.
Paul and Ellie's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very sweet. And
Very
even
sweet.
they're all caring for each other in those scenes. They're all supporting each other. They're all trying to help each other be their best.
Yeah. And those are the ones that are going to last. These like romantic love ones. They're young and they're still figuring those things out. And I think that, they're going to, all three of them will go through more growth.
Yeah.
So what did you learn?
Let's see. I think I really liked that they had a character, Paul, who the love was demonstrated through effort. I think it's been one of the biggest challenges in my life is seeing love as an action rather than a feeling. And my husband's love language is acts of service, and that's not my love language. I don't even notice it sometimes when people do stuff for me. I think in my life I'd taken it for granted too much before before that love language thing became popular, and then I really started to notice like all the little things he does, and I'm like, and then I started to try to use his love language more towards him. So
for sure. So my gosh, mine has been same.
Yeah.
Acts of service.
Yeah.
He's really good. And I'm like, oh God, I have to do something. I love you. I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think like a lot of guys have that. I can't say statistically what the, stats are on that, but I think a lot of guys are acts of service people. So I like that they had a character who basically, he does things for people,
Yeah.
He makes them food. He watches out for them. He has their back. Yeah. And we had one more favorite scene to talk about, which is, oh my God. So in this scene, like I'm mixing up their names. I guess that's their ship name, Esther. No, Ellie and Aster. Aster drives Ellie over to this hot spring and they spend this day together and they're just like floating in this hot spring. And they're talking to each other and there's this beautiful shot. Oh my gosh. Speaking of the half of it, there's this beautiful shot where you see their face above water and it's reflected down in the water, and both of their heads in the same shot, like their heads. How would you describe that?
They're like head to head, as if you were laying down, they're head to head, floating, and you see their heads above the water and then their reflections in the water, and it's all like steamy, and they're both beautiful, and it's just so dreamy.
That other half thing. Yeah.
That the other half, which is also prefaced in the credits, the opening credits. The little character looks in the water and is looking at their reflection, and then you get in this super dreamy, beautiful hot springs scene.
And they're playing "If You Leave Me Now" from Chicago, which is a very melancholy and beautiful song. Also a very Gen X touch, though, because that's definitely like a song that, like, our parents probably would listen to.
No
But anyway,
idea
it's a beautiful scene, and I love, like, Ellie says, this was my mom's favorite song, like "If You Leave Me Now," and she said every song, movie, story has a best part, and then Astor goes about the song, "Was that it?" And I love this because it reminds me of that thing in Inglourious Bastards where, like, talk about bringing in something totally different, where like Brad Pitt's character is carving onto the Nazi's head, and he says, "I think this might be my masterpiece." And people at the time were saying, "This is Quentin Tarantino signaling to you that this is his masterpiece." And I'm like, in the movie, I felt like this is Alice Wu telling you this is the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I felt like. I felt like it was a little cheeky kind of like addition, and because I did feel like it was the best part of the movie. Like, it was so beautiful, so dreamy, so away from the rest of the world of the movie. But yeah, I felt like that was like a similar filmmaker touch. Like this is the best part. Just so you know. Just so you know.
It was really beautiful.
Anyway, yeah, I think other than favorite scenes, other than that, we already talked about Paul chasing the train. I love that. And Paul totally tearing down the plot of No Exit. Also love it. I'm not very much like Paul. I'm much more like Ellie, but I think maybe that's why I like Paul so much. Like, intellectual people need people to bring him down a little bit. Down to earth, not like down, like not smart.
Yeah.
Down to what the regular people are talking about. But I am like Paul, though, because I'm not cynical like Ellie. I'm a total romantic. I would love somebody running after a train after me.
Yeah.
Do you have a character you identified with in the film more than others, or?
Well, I think I put stuff on Astor that I don't know if it's entirely true, but like that kind of going along with what's expected of you, even if you have different ideas and are afraid to vocalize them for then what? Then you're going to be disappointing people.
So,
I mean, not that I was the popular, beautiful girl.
But it shows you that the
funny
popular,
looking,
beautiful girl. You were not funny looking. She was not funny looking. But anyway. But anyway, it shows you that the popular, beautiful girl, like, has things going on that you might not know about.
Right. And I feel like a lot of people who have it all don't have it all and feel that they can't say that they don't have it all, that they are struggling or have different thoughts or different ideas because, people view them in a way, and then you feel like you got to live into that, and then you fall apart and, have a breakdown, and which is ultimately good, because then you tell the truth about yourself.
So, yeah, I think that brings us to basically the end. For double feature recommendations is something we've started. I would just recommend mainly watching Alice Wu's other film, Saving Face, which is from 2004. And I think it's on Prime right now, and it was very enjoyable, but very different film. I mean, like, if you're a teenager listening to this, or I don't know if a teenager would be listening to this, but we swear a lot. But
you weren't a swearing teenager.
What am I even talking about? I swore all the time when I was a teenager, and I watched tons of R-rated movies. So never mind. Watch Saving Face. It's great. And then the other recommendation I have besides Saving Face would be Cyrano de Bergerac, the 1990 version, because it's so beautiful. And
it's beautiful.
It's a great play. It's so well written, and you can watch it then in its original French, so you kind of get the flavor of the words as well. Any other ideas for recommendations? Or,
I mean, well, you could go to the black and white
I've never seen it.
Cyrano de Bergerac with Jose Ferrer.
I've never seen it. Is it good?
Again, it was all a long time ago, but yes, a long time ago.
All right.
I need to go back because it has been a long time.
Well, we're going to be keeping busy reviewing some other films too, though. So you're going to have a lot of watching to do, I'm afraid.
I can handle it.
Yeah, in the coming weeks, again, we're going to be doing some more modernization of literary texts. And first off is going to be Clueless. So if you want to write us, you can write feedback@everyromcom.com. You can find the podcast at everyromcom.com. And yeah, anything to add, Sophia?
No. See you next time. Can't wait.
Yeah, awesome. It was really great talking with you today, Sophia. And I look forward to next time. Take care.
You too, Jen. See you then.